Professor Kleinium here, explaining the little Pipet rocket lab we're doing in class at this time. And I want to start out by working through the chemistry of the lab. One of the chemical reactions is zinc metal reacts with sulfuric acid to form zinc sulfate, aqueous, and hydrogen gas. And then I ask, what type of reaction is this? Okay, so this is one of the reactions. The purpose of this reaction is to produce hydrogen gas. And so writing out the formula, it is metallic zinc solid plus sulfuric acid aqueous reacts to form zinc sulfate aqueous and hydrogen gas. Again, the purpose of this reaction is to form hydrogen gas. The hydrogen gas goes into the rocket. It's balanced as it is, 1, 1, 1, 1. The type of reaction this is, you can see that this is a single replacement reaction. The zinc is stronger than the hydrogen and knocks it out of place to produce hydrogen gas. So that's the first reaction in this lab. Okay, the second reaction in the lab, hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, reacts with manganese dioxide catalyst to form water and oxygen gas. And the main point of this reaction is to form oxygen gas, which goes into the rocket. And then I also ask, what is this reaction type? Okay, so the chemistry of this one is hydrogen peroxide. Of course, that's aqueous. It's only 3%. It reacts with a catalyst, MnO2. You have to put that over the arrow because it's not a reactant, nor is it a product. It's not actually used up in the reaction, so that's why you have to put the manganese dioxide over the arrow. And it reacts to form water and oxygen gas. This type of reaction, you can see that hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, is decomposing into water and oxygen gas. So we're going to call this a decomposition reaction. To balance this, I need to put a 2, and a 1. Now remember, the purpose of this reaction is to form oxygen gas, which will combine with the hydrogen gas in the rocket to make effective rocket fuel, where the two gases ignite together to form water. So the third reaction is that hydrogen gas, H2, reacts with oxygen gas, O2, to form water, liquid. This is a 2-to-1 ratio. That becomes important in this lab. And you can see that by volume, you're going to want to put 2 parts of hydrogen into the rocket for every 1 part of oxygen by volume. For example, if the rocket were to look like this, you're going to want to put twice as much hydrogen in there as you put oxygen because of this ratio 2-to-1. You also leave some room in there for water. You don't want to take all the water out. So part of the rocket you reserve for water. Okay, so let me show you the reactions as they go. First of all, I have this test tube right here. It's marked for zinc. So I take the lid off, put a little bit of zinc in here. It won't take too much. So I put a couple of pieces of zinc in there. Next, I take my hydrochloric acid. It's only 0.2 molar, not very strong. It's quite dilute, so it's fairly safe. And I'm going to fill about half full with sulfuric acid. A little bit more maybe. Takes a little while for the reaction to get started. Once it gets started, it starts running really well. Immediately I can start to see some bubbles forming in the bottom. Maybe I'll put another piece of zinc in there. Okay, so now I've got zinc metal in the acid solution, and I'm seeing these little bubbles starting to form. Okay, very good. Now I'm going to put the lid back on here, which has a little pipette end that I can inject this gas into the rocket. Okay, so this is the test tube number 1 relating to this first reaction here, the zinc and sulfuric acid. You can see the hydrogen gas is already being formed. Okay, the second reaction, the one with the peroxide, you have a little bit of catalyst. You might notice there's a little bit of catalyst already in here. It's a black powder, the manganese dioxide. I may not need any more catalyst since there's already some on there. Here's my hydrogen peroxide. It's only 3%. And if I put this in here, I might immediately start to see bubbles forming. If not, I'll put a little bit of hydrogen peroxide in there. I'll put a little bit more of the catalyst in there, excuse me. So I do see some bubbles forming. Not very vigorously, but I do see some bubbles forming. Perhaps I have enough catalyst in there. Put the lid on. Okay, so now I'm ready to fill up a rocket. Now to do that, I take a little disposable pipette. This is a graduated one, and I cut the end of it off. And now I'm going to fill this with water by immersing it under water, and I blow all the air out. I don't want any air in this rocket. So I just did that. Flip it over. Now this rocket is completely full of water. Then I'm going to put the test tube in here to displace the water out. Okay, so you see I'm producing a little bit of gas. Now this is the hydrogen gas being formed, so I'm thinking I want to put twice as much of this in as I do the oxygen gas, so here it goes. You can see that the hydrogen gas is coming out. I'm pushing some water out of the test tube, which is running out onto the floor. No big problem. Okay, so it's about 1/4 to 1/3 full of hydrogen gas. Let's let it go down to about maybe half full of hydrogen. It's running about the right speed right there. Okay, very good. That's probably enough hydrogen. That I set that down. Now here is my oxygen gas generator with the hydrogen peroxide in it. I put it in and notice now I'm producing the oxygen gas, and it's slowly flowing in here. I'm going to add enough oxygen gas so it's about a 2-to-1 ratio, twice hydrogen to 1 of oxygen. And I will leave a little water in here because I don't want to see the gases escape. Then I'm going to take this over to the rocket launcher and show you how I launch these rockets across the room. So I've got just about enough oxygen in there, maybe a little bit more. Okay, that's about right. That's maybe a 2-to-1 ratio of hydrogen to oxygen. Okay, I've got my rocket over here on the other part of the classroom. This is my rocket launcher. This is my sparking device, little Tesla coil. So what I do is I put the rocket onto one of these nails here. I'm going to try my long nail like that. Now all I need to do is spark it for the hydrogen and the oxygen gas inside there to explode, and the rocket will be launched. Okay, I'll put the rocket launcher down a little bit. Look out below. 3, 2, 1, fire! Woohoo! Went halfway across the room. How fun is science?